I didn't want to mess with the patina of the house.
Well, you're like the traditional Soviets. You always have the 5-year plan. Every 5 years, it's like, we'll do the attic, we'll fix the kitchen. Mr. Mann has, as you say, spent a fortune making it look like he did nothing.
My name is David Mann. I'm the founder of MR Architecture Decor.
Hi, my name's Fritz Karsh. What else am I supposed to say?
Anything you want.
Oh.
And I do something different every day. Isn't that what you normally say?
Yes, I do something different every day. But today I'm working at MR Architecture Decor.
MR Architecture Decor's offices are in Manhattan. Most of our projects are in New York City, the Hamptons, upstate. Previously, we used to do work all over the globe, but now we're much more local. One of the things that we like to pride ourselves with in our firm is the diversity of our project types. My firm does do mostly residential work, but we still do retail work, hospitality work, and corporate work. The very beginning of the career came from doing Takashimaya. More well-known projects we've done at the Parker PS Hotel in Palm Springs. Jonathan Adler did the decor on that one, and we did the architecture. But architecturally, the Brise Soleil that we designed for the front of the building has become pretty much an icon in town. It's certainly one of the most Instagrammable places in Palm Springs. But we also did a great deal of high-end fashion retail. Lanvin, for example, we did, in 1 year, we did 13 flagship shops for them all over the globe. We also did the Dior men's stores with Eddie Slimane back in the day. Pierre Hardy, we did his American stores. We've done many, many other brands as well, but those are some of the more well-known ones. This house, where we live, is in the Hudson Valley. This is an incredibly beautiful part of the country. It's rich farmland, rolling hills. There's beautiful historic old homes and a lot of rich history. And there's the beautiful little town of Hudson, which is an antique mecca. It also has a thriving art scene and music scene, and now great restaurants and hotels are moving in as well. When people come to our home, I think I want them to feel at home and want to enjoy the experience. Welcome to my home outside of Hudson. We are standing in the foyer. This house was built in 1783 for Jonathan Bay and is locally known as the Jonathan Bay House. So this was a mantelpiece for a fireplace for a chateau outside of Paris, designed by Adnet in the, I believe it was in the early 40s during the Second World War. The story I had was that he commissioned a sculptor friend to do these caryatids because that person had no work during the war. It was just a way to support him. But I love this, and I thought it was a perfect piece for here. I like to talk about this piece because a lot of people ask what this is, and I got it in a great antique store, but I don't know, maybe it was $25. The guy said that he had found it. It was a pan that a garage was putting underneath the trucks to collect the oil. Well, I have it, yeah, as an art piece. I love the floors in this house. They're just the patina on them, the fact that they're raw. That's one of the reasons why I bought the house. I just thought the floors were beautiful, just in the state that they're in. And they're messed up. There's holes in them. There's gaps in them. It's hard to make the place feel really clean because it's easy for the dirt to collect on this and you can't even see it. This is the kitchen. When I bought the house, there was a wall that went all the way through here. This was a hallway, and the kitchen was pretty much like a dorm kitchen. It had an under-counter refrigerator, a tiny sink. It really wasn't a kitchen for a house of this size, certainly not one where you could entertain people in. So I removed that wall, which brought a lot more light into the room as well. You get the light from above the stair and just opened up the space. And then I put the refrigerator and pantry over here, so they're all built into this back wall. So, you know, it's a little full at the moment. Our day-to-day china is kept in this cabinet over here, which was probably from the 1930s. We're imagining that's when that piece was added. It is very much on display. In fact, it's probably not at its neatest at the moment. A lot of the china actually comes from Fritz. He really is the one who knows a lot more about that. In fact, he knows a lot about tabletop. And so all of the silver and the china is basically from him. I have this piece of art by Rodney Dixon. He's a very interesting contemporary artist. A friend of mine asked me why I have a giant oil slick in my kitchen, but I like this piece. And I think it's a little unusual to have a piece that serious in a room like this. We use this room as the dining room, and it probably has been the dining room, at least in the 20th century and now. I believe this wall was probably done in the 1930s. To me, it doesn't, the proportions and the detailing feel right for that era, especially this glass and mullion door. One of the things I love in this house are these built-in cabinets that have extra little storage in them that are just off on the corner. So this, this piece and that piece, this is something that most people would throw away, but I bought these from a friend back when we were living dorm style like kids in my apartment. This was storage. I think it's where I kept all my clothes. They're just inexpensive metal cabinets that my friend had stripped, and I just like the patina on them. They're not a very expensive thing, but they feel right to me. You might be curious about these also. These are Japanese headrests. They're made of porcelain. I can't imagine how somebody's comfortable lying on that, but that is what they lie on, or used to. This is the front parlor, or living room. There's these two perfectly square rooms. I didn't do too much to this room, mostly just the decorating. It's a perfect square with nice high ceilings and great light, and we spend a lot of time in here. This is usually where we all gather before a meal and chit-chat while we have hors d'oeuvres and cocktails. Fritz made this piece. He didn't make the bush, nature made that. But the funny story about this bush and the one in the other room was that our neighbor, I guess, they were throwing out their dead foliage and they threw it over the fence into our yard, thinking it's garbage, that we'd have to pick it up. But of course, Fritz finds beauty in these things, and of course, when he frames it, so do I. He put it in the vase in the fireplace, and we have it as a piece of sculpture. Back here would be the library, and it kind of is for us too. I have all of our books back here, but we also use this as a dining room. So when we have more than 8 people, which is what the dining room handles easily, this table extends out and we can seat 20 at the table. This becomes the dining room for large occasions like Thanksgiving or Christmas. These are 2 antique leather chairs. Tulip, our dog, will sit in this one and wait for us when we're not home. My sister was here once alone with her and did this painting of her in that chair waiting for us. I'm a very slow reader, and I have read a surprising amount of these books. Not only do we like to read all kinds of things, but we also like to go to old bookstores and support bookstores, feeling that they're disappearing across the country, and we're helping them stay afloat in our minor way of contributing. But I love books in every way, shape, and form. This is a piece of a banyan tree root. So it's a little section of a banyan tree root. I don't know, it fits right here on this part of wall really well. I leave it here all winter, and this does dry out this part of the wood, but I don't know, I still like it. So this house has 10 fireplaces in total. This one and the room next to it are identical in terms of the mantelpiece. My impression is that these are part of the Greek Revival mantels. Upstairs, I'm pretty sure that one of those is one of the original Federal style, and then there's a couple of other style mantels here as well. It was a gift from a friend, and it's a Polaroid of Truman Capote at Joanna Carson's house in California. It's just, the funny thing about it is that my apartment building in the city is where Truman Capote used to live, and I think that's why I got this as a gift. So here in the foyer, one of the biggest projects I did was to rebuild the stair. This first run was pretty much here, and you can see a little splice mark in the handrail. From that point over, it had to be rebuilt. The second run of stair came right up next to it. There was no opening here, but I made this all a double height space, which is, according to other houses in the area, the way it was originally. So I basically This part of the project was more of a restorative project. This artwork is by Spencer Finch. The story behind the work is that he dyed the paper to match the color of the Hudson at different hours of the day. And these are the pieces right here. And this is the direction of the Hudson River from here. It's about 3 miles in that direction. This chandelier is from the early 60s. It's by an artist named Hogland. It was a candelabra that I had wired up, and it's actually 3 separate fixtures that I put together to make the right size piece. Now it feels like the right proportion, the right statement for the room. And the funny thing is that I can actually reach and change all of the bulbs, which is usually a little bit of a hard feat. And because these bulbs go out quickly, I can see there's a few more I have to change. It's something that I'm doing a lot. This is a tapestry piece that I found at Art Basel. It's a tapestry that is taken from an infrared photograph of the border between Mexico and California. You can kind of see the economic divide and the control of water in the fields above and the difference below. But I just found it completely fascinating and also a beautiful thing. This is a display case that we found for, I think it was maybe $125 in an old thrift shop. I had bought this tree for a Christmas card that we made. When I bought that, Fritz said, "Oh, I have a collection of other artificial trees." So the next time he came up, he brought all these other trees. I love this one. We collect a lot of World of Interiors. We have 2 of most issues. We treasure them. We actually do reread them and read them. I go through them for inspiration for projects. The problem is I have at least this many at the office. I've got this here. I have them, some in the bookcase downstairs, some in the room in here. And then Fritz has a whole bunch of them in his house. And then we have a bunch in our apartment in the city. And I'd like to get them all in one place, have one full run from the beginning to the end, and then we can have the extras someplace else. But they're all over the place, and I'd like to consolidate, but I do love them. We really do love them. I've been collecting them since the early 90s, and Fritz has collected them since the mid 80s. That's a piece of paper over a light source. I did that in the powder room too. I always find it hard to find surface mounted light fixtures. So we've used this one for clients too occasionally because it's incredibly inexpensive to do. You just need a couple of small nails and a large piece of nice paper. This cabinet, I bought at an auction here in Hudson, and it's Dutch chinois. You can tell Dutch by the turned legs. I love the squeak of the door, so you know when anybody's going in here. You can hear it from far away. But I also love the fabric on the back of the cabinet. I have every pair of eyeglasses I've ever owned are in here. I've saved all of them. This is the blue room. One of the features of it is this bedspread, which I collect a lot of indigo dyed fabrics, and I gave these to Nancy Angel and she made a beautiful bedspread. This is also indigo. It's a pair of Japanese trousers, and those are some Rick Owens shoes that I've never worn, but I just like the way they look. These milk jug lamps, I had them turned into lamps. I bought these in New Orleans. This mantle may be one of the original Georgian or federal style mantles. Funny thing that one of the previous owners did is they put all the outlets on top of the mantle. So every room with a fireplace has 2 outlets on top of the mantle. Fritz has a lot of chairs. Someone told him that there were 68 in his studio apartment, and he counted them. The guy was right. He was surprised himself that he had that many. And the studio apartment was about a room this size. So if you can imagine 68 chairs in a room like this. He literally, I would say he probably has close to 1,000 chairs at this point, but I'm guessing. This is our bedroom, obviously, and I can tell you about the art piece over the mantle. That is a work by my dear friend Carrie Leibowitz. It's a tire flap from a semi-truck. He put this little text on the bottom of there. Something very odd about this piece, he gave it to me as a gift, and I've never asked him this, but I need to. When I'm in bed at night and the light is coming in from the street light out there, this D and this M are much brighter than everything else. It has the iridescent, you know, when your car light hits it, it glows. Those two glow much more, and those are my initials. It can't have been planned, but it's weird because it does do that. This is a Kuba cloth we're using as a headboard, and these were flea market finds, these lamps. And then we have our primary bathroom back here. When I bought the house, there were 2 rooms back here. There was a wall, you can sort of see where the wall was right here. This was plastered over entirely, there was a wall here, and I thought that these were probably maze rooms. There were probably 2 maze rooms. There's a hallway and a stair up to the upper floor on the other side of this wall, and the 2 doors to this room were over there. And I turned this into a primary bath and closet. These 2 armoires are what we use for closets for ourselves. So we have a nice spacious bathroom that's very easy to use and very, very simple. I will tell you that all of the fireplaces have little installations in them, and they've all been done by Fritz. So this is where he comes alive. He does a lot of these kind of still life things. This is something that Fritz has a tendency to do in a lot of places. And it's kind of random. I mean, I don't know what a lot of these things are, but you know, we were talking about doll furniture that he has a lot of. I don't know if this is doll furniture, but this is in the city by the bed. He has a ton of that kind of stuff. But they're just random things that he's found that he's liked. And if you dial into it and look further, there are really interesting little stories in here. Kind of fascinating stuff. This is the guest bathroom, and the floor is raised here. In the day, it was the way they got the plumbing to the each piece. They had to raise it to get the pipe underneath. I had a flood in here not long after. It was actually a flood in the basement that came from one of the risers. So we had to jackhammer some of the floor out, but I actually love this kind of, you know, this is the history and life of this room. These things have happened. Also in here is this Warhol drawing. The story behind this was I bought it in Palm Springs. I happened to be staying in Palm Springs with Vincent Fremont, who was the head of the Warhol Foundation. And when I brought it back, he said, no, it's not a real Warhol, because Warhol never would have signed the piece. He would never, he didn't like signing his work. He didn't like his own handwriting. He would have his mother sign his paintings. And, but I was told when I bought it, the store owner said this was a sketch he did of a friend of the store owner's, and he knew the story personally. His friend had been a dancer, and Warhol used to like to do portraits of dancers, and he would frequently give them the piece when it was done. And I actually have seen one of these drawings at MoMA with Andy Warhol's signature on it. So I don't know if what Vincent was telling me is right, but I actually love the idea that it's controversial, that it wasn't bought as a valuable piece, because I really don't want any real valuable art here. So let me explain the teeth. I bought these 2 teeth in Hudson in an antique store, and as Fritz and I were carrying them out to the car, somebody yelled from across the street, "That must have hurt." but while I was driving, Fritz turned it over and found the address of where they were made, and I got another one. That one in there, and I thought, well, we need a gold tooth along with the white teeth. So that's why we have 3. I think these were originally from dentist's office. They were stools the kids would sit on, but they're fun. I always like the line, originality is the obscurity of your source. So I like to be looking for inspiration everywhere, in the unexpected places as well as the expected. Home wasn't something that we were supposed to have. It wasn't, society didn't understand that part, so we were thought of, we don't have a home, which made me personally, maybe even the reason I'm an architect, want to make home more than anybody else. Maybe I need home more than others. And I found home. And this home is a good part of that. We've shared this home together as a couple for a long time, and that's what's meaningful, these rich experiences with our friends. It's our home.